Good evening and welcome to the May 8th, 2023 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Chatham. My name is Catherine Halpern. I'm Chair of the Planning Board of the Town of Chatham. This meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format. That means both in person and remotely. Please note also that this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chair. I'll give you a few seconds in case you're connected by phone and you are muted to let us know. I don't see any hands. So we'll continue. I have a few points to read about our hybrid format. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law C-30A 20, until March 31, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Planning Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to the meeting while it is in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410. That's 1-508-945-4410, and the conference ID number is 866-309-171#. That's 866-309-171#. Or you may also join the meeting online using Microsoft Teams through the link in the agenda that is posted on the town website. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. And as I mentioned earlier, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. So before we get started, let's do a roll call of the board. Bob Wirtschafter.
Bob Wirtschafter, present.
Art Spru.
Art Spru, present.
Warren Chain.
Warren Chain, present.
Megan Story.
Megan Story, present.
Charlene Greenhalgh.
Charlene Greenhalgh, present.
Bob Dubus.
Bob Dubus, present.
And this is Catherine Halpern. I'm also present. And then also before we start, may I ask if any board members need to recuse themselves for any matters on tonight's agenda? I don't think so. All right, so let's start with the first item on the agenda, which are the minutes from the April 24th meeting. I'll ask if there's any amendments or corrections, additions. Arthur.
Yes, I have one on page 2, third paragraph. First line, Stephanie Sequin, Riders and Wilcox
Yes.
presented an updated, it says wastewater plan. Replace wastewater with drainage plan.
Great. Thank you. I had the same correction. Thank you,
Okay.
Arthur. And actually, I have a few other minor corrections. I wanted to say that our recording secretary is doing an excellent job with the minutes. I can tell that you're really putting some attention on the details. These are just a few minor suggestions to change. 1, 2, 3. The fifth paragraph down on the second page. The board then discussed the operating hours of the area and concerns over sound. I think I'd rather change that to noise, since that's what's referred to in our site plan review criteria. And then, if you wouldn't mind, instead of saying they agreed, just for the sake of clarity, can you say the board agreed to review these issues after 1 year of use? And then Attorney Riley explained that the applicant, again, just for the sake of clarity, would like the outdoor dining, etc. And then I think, again, in the last sentence, you say Attorney Riley clarified that they plan. Could you say the applicant plans? And then under long-range planning, similar things. 1, 2, third sentence down at the end, ensuring some affordable, attainable units. Let's eliminate some. Just say ensuring affordable, attainable units are built. And then again, they talked about, can you say the board considered? just so it's clear who's talking. And then again, the next sentence, the board also discussed revisiting the wastewater capacity infrastructure. Great, but otherwise, your minutes are great. Any other changes or amendments? All right, may I have a motion to approve with amendments as noted?
Madam Chair, I move approval of the meeting minutes as amended.
Thank you so much. In a second,
Art Spru, second.
Bob,
Bob Wertheimer, approve.
Art,
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain, approve.
Megan Story,
Megan Story, approve.
Charlene Greenhalgh,
Charlene Greenhalgh, approve.
Bob Dubus,
Bob Dubus, approve.
and this is Catherine Halpern. I also approve the minutes from the April 24th meeting with amendments as stated. Next on our agenda is site plan review. This is a continuation from the April 24th meeting. This is a formal site plan review for 487, 489 Main Street, the Chatham Square. There were some revisions and documents requested by the board, and we have a revised statement of conditions prepared by Ryan Christenberry. So please go ahead if you wanted to make a brief summary
thank
of
you.
what you've brought forth.
Yeah. Bill Riley on behalf of the Squire and his current ownership. One thing we talked about at our last meeting that we found troublesome, candidly, was the discussion of the right of review after a year. And I communicated with Ryan by email about that. Their principal review board, particularly for the issues that we're discussing here, is the Board of Selectmen as the licensing authority. And it's unlikely that people are going to come complain to the planning board. Most likely, they're going to complain, if there are complaints, to the Board of Selectmen. Select Board. So, other than that, I think we're very much in agreement with the proposed conditions.
Thanks. I'd like to just make a comment on that. I appreciate your point of view. That being said, the planning board does have purview over any sort of unpleasant aspects of any particular site plan that may disturb the abutters, which includes noise, includes light, so we do have purview over those things. We do have purview over hours of operation. Insofar as it may disturb the abutters, we have on a number of occasions in the past included a condition that there would be a review after a year or after 2 years to review the operations. In particular, I'm thinking of one commercial site where it was the hours of operation in particular, and they did request an extension of the hours of operations, which the planning board did not allow because of the disturbance to the abutters. So it is within our purview, and it is a practice that we've done before on other commercial sites, and largely because these issues are part of our site plan review criteria, and the consent of the abutters is also something that we usually have to consider. So I don't know, Ryan, did you want to add any comments to that?
Well, just to remind the board about the town's outdoor dining policy, I handed out those documents to you, which contains the hours of operation that they're currently licensed under that policy, and also maybe just make the distinction that in other commercial properties where a liquor licensing authority has not been involved, maybe it's appropriate for the board to revisit hours of operations. But in this case, the liquor licensing authority, being the select board, has pretty clear regulations. They have licensing hours. They have a framework for dealing with violations, enforcement penalties. I think in this particular case, it may be more appropriate for the board to consider deferring that to that licensing process.
Okay, good. Yes, Megan?
I would say that in this particular instance, given what you were saying, that the Board of Selectmen would essentially have more teeth. But,
That's true.
yeah. So perhaps the deferment is in order. I mean, if that's...
Okay, good. Yeah. Any other comments on this or on any other issues? regarding this, we can go through the board. Arthur, or, go ahead.
No, I
Sharon.
just thought of something, and I'm glad that
Here's the draft order.
Ryan explained what she did, because I think that's critical. Would that change what is in the draft decision of 4/28/23, item number 3? Because we do have during regular operation of the establishment until 11 PM. Would we want to keep that, or are we going to be contrary to what the selectmen are saying?
I think that's a very good question, and I think when the board was previously talking about this, I didn't have before you what those hours of operation were through the outdoor dining. I believe it would be appropriate to defer to whatever their licensing hours are, rather than include something here that may be contrary.
I would agree with that, and I would encourage the board to change condition number 3 to reflect the change to conform to the hours that the select board has put in place. So why don't we go through the board? Arthur, do you have some points that you'd like to cover?
Yes. All right, so I've got a couple of things.
See, she took it out.
Well, as far as this review, our review, I think, would be more than just some of the things that the Board of Selectmen are trying to oversee in that. I think our review also could go back and revisit whether this is going to work, period. Okay? Outdoor dining is not something that we have a handle on. We have a shoehorn site here. We have 12 parking spaces, asking for a waiver of 1. If things get crazy here, this may need to change. So I think still a review from a site plan perspective is still appropriate. That's my first point. I think we should, in items 2 and 3, I think we referred to the outdoor seating area. I think the applicant has indicated 36 seats. I think that should be the upset limit associated with that. So in case something goes around, we did this, I think, with Max when they were trying to put tables in there and a number of seats. We were counting the number of seats by each of the tables and all that. We came up with a number, and that's what we defined for them, and I think we should define the same thing here. And then, as part of the reference that's in 1, it's not just the single site plan. I think there's many of the other plans that were submitted by the applicant should be referenced as being part of the site plan. I don't think they need to be modified or anything. I think the information is there, but I don't see all the plans and details if we're just going to sign off on the single site plan. So I have a couple of items that I think should be included. There's a landscape plan, which is L 1.03. I think that should be included as a reference in that condition 1. And I need a clarification before I go on to the rest of them. There was several different landscape plans. One showed plantings along the southerly side of parking spaces, I think 1 through 5. I don't see it on another one. I need to understand, are those plantings going in adjacent to those parking spaces?
It's currently a green strip, and we're maintaining the green strip.
Okay, so the plan, just make sure whatever plan is the landscape 1.03 shows those plantings there, because some plans 1.03 do and others don't. There's a floor plan that shows the layout on the outside of the seating area. Again, this is everything exterior to the building is our purview, and what's it supposed to look like? That's plan, I believe, A1.01. There are details that deal with fencing, lighting. I'd say like A3.01, 0.02, 0.03, they show the type of fencing and where it's all gonna be. Again, if these are all just referenced and included as part of it, I'm not asking you to do anything other than including them. I do have a question for the other board members. The wall light detail, which was submitted, PH-8, it's not exactly a cutoff design. However, it's within the fenced area, and it might not be as much of a nuisance, but I would like to defer to the other board members on if the type of light fixture that we should be, the applicant should be providing. So we can decide that as a board as we go through the other decisions. And I think one of these plans shows where those outdoor lights are. Let's see, oh, it's L 1.04, so that one should be included. So those are, I think, the minimum of the ones that should be referenced and attached to this. Certainly, all the rest of them can be, but those are the important ones from a site perspective of what we want to see. If we went out there, took a look at it after it's all built and say, here's the plan, yep, it matches. That's really what I'm looking at.
Did you have a response? Yes, please go ahead.
As a matter of record, with it been submitted as part of this site plan review, is it just duplicating items by referencing them in the conditions? I mean, they're part of our packet, yes?
Well, we discussed that. I believe it's been the practice of this board to specifically note, each one.
Which drawings, right?
Yeah.
The entire package is part of our submission, is it not?
I can create an itemized list of the plans.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's.
And the reason why I'm saying this is, if you take a look, we've had 3 different packets like this. They have 3 different
that's the
dates on them.
reason. Yeah.
Some of them changed, and I think it's important that we have the package the way it's supposed to be in the final form. That's all.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and that's basically the reasoning behind it. To my recollection, it's been the practice of this board to itemize, So good.
Madam
yes.
Chair,
Yes,
just briefly on Mr. Sprue's comments regarding the right of review. Part of the problem that we have with that is that the Board of Selectmen, which
actually, Mr. Riley, I would prefer to go through the board, because other board members may want to weigh in on that issue, and then we can take your comments after that, if that's all right.
And I think,
Arthur-
the one last thing is the hours of operation. I think I agree with what was in the temporary ones. I think those should be the hours that we should reference. It's consistent to what the Board of Selectmen have done, so.
Yeah,
So I'm just suggesting I support that.
yeah,
And I can craft that so that it's reflective of the outdoor dining policy with a caveat that any subsequent licensing may alter those, right? So that.
oh, no, wait,
so-
so that means if the license changes, we have to come back here?
No, I'm saying so that you wouldn't have to come back here. That's what's documented here, but as the licensing process hasn't happened, that process can change those hours of operation
yeah, and that's
from
the
this
way you,
condition.
yeah, and that's the way you have it worded now. But you'll change the hours because they are different than the hours that we specify. Yeah. You have, okay, Warren.
I'm glad you clarified the hours of operation, because I'd only seen this at the beginning of the
Yeah.
meeting. And, I'm certainly in favor of trying to make it consistent with and agree with the terms of the temporary licensing for outdoor dining. That makes all the sense rather than create a difference. With respect to review in a year, recognizing, I understand the issue with licensing for alcohol consumption and so on. But I personally am concerned that we don't really know what this is going to look like, whether it's the lighting and whether it'll be offensive, or whether we're going to have long lines of people that need to be redirected around away from the main entrance. Who knows? And there's no way to know that. I think what is being proposed in the conditions is appropriate. I'm very much in favor of all of the concessions that have been made by the applicant with respect to trying to avoid issues with queuing of people and the other issues, be it outdoor smoking and so on. But I do think that, given that it's unknowable, that it's not unreasonable for the board to take a look back, and if there really are no complaints to any agency or committee, board of the town, and the abutters are content, then so be it, that's fine. But I don't think we have the ability to know what that's going to be, and I don't think it would be terribly onerous to take a quick look a year from now, or whatever period of time makes sense, just to make sure that things are working properly, and if not, then we can tinker with it. But that's just a personal feeling. I don't feel, that, I'm going to go to the mat on that particular thing, but that's my sense of whether it makes sense or not, and whether it's within our purview. The things of concern to me are certainly within our purview.
Great. Thank you, Warren. Any other comments or? Okay.
No.
Megan?
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. Most of my concerns have been addressed. The hours of operation would be the primary one. The seating, having not been here when you made those calculations, allotments, et cetera, for max, I would say that we probably should be apples to apples and sort of do a similar assessment and condition on this one. And then regarding the review in a year, again, I'm probably not going to go to the mat over it, as Warren was saying, but I personally feel like if there are complaints, issues, et cetera, they're going to end up in the selectman's lap. They may even end up in the selectman's lap in 4 weeks. I mean, not 4 weeks from now, since we know you're not starting until the fall, but they may end up in the selectman's lap well before they end up in ours. And so I would tend to defer to them. My question with regard to that is, if something comes up that is not a liquor license related violation, can they then refer them back to us, or does this have to be?
No.
Okay, so this is
No.
like the only chance to sort of,
Yes.
and what are the, Bill, you may be able to answer this better than anyone. I don't know if it's a legal question, but if it goes awry and we have not put that 1 year purview into place, how does the town go about fixing that problem?
I think I'm going to ask,
Legally, I mean, yeah.
whatever conditions we put in place.
I mean,
are-
he's the attorney, that's why I'm asking him, not because I think, he's not,
No, well, my understanding is that every board that makes a decision, except for the zoning board of appeals, always has a right to review that decision. The thing that's of concern to the applicant is that we're really talking about sort of a known set of standards with the select board. And, you folks are all very sensitive and caring. And if a single abutter makes a lot of objections, you may say, well, maybe we should take a look at this again. And, that's a concern that we think is very unfair to the applicant, who's going to spend a lot of money and make a lot of changes to bring what I think we all agree is a great amenity. I think they have a right to rely on their history of management of their patrons. So
my concern is less what you're saying about an abutter Because I think that's an issue that's the question I'm asking. But, and more with exactly kind of what you were saying, in that the selectmen have a specific set of
Right.
standards, right? And we don't. And what if we are a
We
different?
actually do. We
Okay,
actually do. And as I said earlier, it is the practice of this board to require, in certain cases, to set as a condition that we have a 1-year or a 2-year review. It's happened on a number of commercial properties. And that after a year or 2 years or whatever time limit the board sets, the whole situation is reviewed. And it does give the board the ability to institute some enforcement if something is not in line with the intention of the site plan. And it does specifically refer to our site plan review criteria, which does include noise and light and disturbance to abutters and safety conditions, all the things that we review. So I think in this case, it is our practice, it is legal, we do have the right to review the aspects that we approve.
oh, I didn't mean to insinuate it wasn't.
No, I know. I'm just explaining
Okay, I
the
just wanna make sure I
situation.
Oh,
And then what the review, it gives the board the opportunity to see, as Arthur said, if it's working, or if we do need to ask for some additional amendments or additional changes. So it gives the board the opportunity to do that. So I think what I'm hearing from some board members, at least.
oh,
that
Madam
they're-
Chair.
Excuse me, let me finish,
No,
Mr.
let me
Riley.
finish.
Let me finish. That it does give, some board members are expressing the concern that we've come up with a site plan, we're giving it approval with certain conditions, but there's some uncertainty as to whether or not that's going to be functional without disturbance. So, as I say, it's been the practice in the past on a number of properties we've done this. So it's up to the board to decide.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
That answers my question.
Yes, Mr. Riley, please go ahead.
So if we assume for a moment that the applicant follows the conditions set forth absolutely and without deviation, but you have an abutter who complains, you say you can come back, and even though we've been fully compliant with everything you requested, no complaints that went to the selectmen, you want to reserve the right to modify something which has, been a significant financial commitment by the applicant.
Actually, that's not what I said.
Well, it's funny, it
I
sounded
said-
like that.
Yeah, no, that's incorrect. For what we it would give the planning board the opportunity to review after a year or after any set time, the entire situation. We're not saying that if an abutter complains, or if this or if that, but just to review the situation to make sure that it's working. For all the concerns that we review on site plan review. So
Well, Madam Chair,
that is a bit different.
well, it
Yeah.
is. So in other words, if we are fully compliant with the conditions and there are no complaints, you can still come back and revise the plan later.
We would review it. It would give us the opportunity to review it. And if there were still some concerns about how the site plan was functioning, whatever those might be, if they're under the purview of the planning board, which would include safety, would include lighting, it's just a performance review, you could say. But it's not saying that you have not complied. That's not so much the issue. It's more a review of the site plan, the mess, and the conditions themselves. That's all. So it's not an issue of whether or not you've complied. It's not an issue of whether or not there's been complaints. It's just the
So
opportunity
it's
to
however
review.
everybody's feeling at that time.
No, it's more, yes, please go ahead, Bob.
Forgive me, but I'm not sure that, how far this goes. If we find in a year's time that the compliant drainage that we insisted isn't working, is that within the review? I mean, I don't think it should be. because we've never done it, I mean, I think it should be, but we've never done it before. So that, we would be going way beyond what we've ever done before. I think we're limiting our issues here to safety mostly. And that's, I'd be happy to have the review limited to questions of safety and let the noise be the issue of the select board.
Okay.
I'm not in favor of that, Madam Chairman.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Dubus,
I was
please.
waiting my turn,
You were waiting your turn, yes.
so Charlene was next to speak. No. All right. Well, one thing, Bill, you're saying that the Squire's running on its history. They've only been in business 2 years, okay? So that's kind of a small scale. I'm in favor of having a review, and it's not a review to squish anybody or change anything, just a review to see what's going on, whether it's working, what people are standing in the hallway or in the alleyway. Could we make a change on that? It's not to browbeat it to death. And I know they're putting a lot of money in there, but the reason they're putting money in there is to get money, okay? This is not, they're not doing any favors. They're trying to make money, okay? So, and there's people there, and I agree with the selectmen maybe getting involved in on their side of it. And if that's fine with me. If they would agree to send us a letter of how it's going through them. If they have no complaints about it, if they think it's running well, fine. And they could run it by us, and we can let it go. But if they have problems with it, or people do have problems with it, they have to come and see us, because we're the people that can change it.
Right.
All right? So this is not against anybody. I mean, we know there's going to be a few minor altercations in that area. And I don't doubt there's probably going to be some drunken fights there. But that's for them to take care of. And as long as they take care of it in a manly or a timely manner, then everything will go fine. But so we're not here to browbeat you to death. We're not here to change anything. I think the rules that we've come across are fine. The change in the time I'm in favor of. If you want to report to the selectmen in a year, that's fine with you. But I think we should have our own little report, and they themselves can come before us and say, did you have any problems? Yes, we'd like to change this. We'd like to change that. We think it would be better if we moved this over here and did this. But we can't do anything unless the board says it's okay. So we're in your ballpark. We want to help you. Maybe you find that if you change the parking a little bit, it would be better, okay? We're not here to knock the Squire down. We want to see all businesses succeed. So just bear with us. What's a letter? What are you afraid of? Are you guys afraid of something?
Yeah.
I'm happy to.
Maybe let's go on to
I'm happy to answer that question.
Yeah.
What we're afraid of is arbitrary regulatory changes that don't have any real significance but make somebody feel better. And when you're, well, I'm just telling you, Bobby, you say, well, you're only doing it to make money. Well, they sure hope to make money, but the reality is that in the last several years, there's been a real vibe in downtown Howardsport with the outdoor dining. And Chatham, because of the way the streets are constructed, has very little opportunity to do that. And this is an opportunity where we can help everybody's business by helping the vibe. And I mean, I think
Well, I agree with that, except for one thing. The difference between Howardsport is Howardsport has all their vibes on the street, not behind the buildings. Okay, so unless you know that's there,
There are a couple
it's
exceptions
not
to
a
that.
viewing thing.
There are exceptions to
Okay?
that.
So, I mean, they have bands on the street. Howard has a whole different setup.
no, I understand that.
And we're not saying you can't do it. We have worked out a way by being here for 4 or 5 times now. And I think it's down to one lousy letter in 1 year to see if everything worked out. okay? That's all we're asking for. If it goes fine, fine. If it doesn't go fine, we might have a few additions that we would say, okay, maybe you could change this. Or maybe you could come with us and say, look, we'd like to do this different. And it's up to us to say yes or no. And hopefully if it works out, we'd say yes. I don't think there's anybody here that would deny the Squire the right to have people outside.
Yeah. If I could just make a comment before we move to Charlene. The intention of the one-year review, and again, I just want to reiterate, it is the common practice of this board to do this, and we've done it on quite a number of commercial properties in Chatham, and it's in particular in relation to the site plan review and our site plan review criteria that we are, which not only fall under our purview, but we are responsible for. And some of our concern, as other board members have mentioned, is that we are therefore responsible for the safety issues, for the traffic issues, for the parking issues, for the noise and light issues, disturbance to abutters. We are responsible to that. And Select Board actually relies on us to be the technical review board for these commercial properties. So it is appropriate and proper for us for this board to request or to require a one-year review if the nature of the site and the nature of the site plan is such that the board feels it's warranted. And I am hearing from a number of board members that we do feel it's warranted. This is not in any way punitive. It's not in any way restrictive to you. In fact, what the purpose of the one review is to help you, to help that if there is something in the site plan that is less than workable, that we would be assisting to do some redesign or rethinking to make that work. So it's not to be considered restrictive or punitive, it's just to be considered part of this board's procedures to ensure that everything is working well, as others have said. So that's all, I just wanted to make that comment. So, Charlene, yes.
Sorry, Bill, but I do believe that a one-year review, and the review should follow one full summer of operation I agree with everything that Catherine and Bobby have said. I was almost swayed until actually Mr. Riley brought up Harwichport. Things have not been happy, happy, joy, joy in Harwichport. I'm sorry, having worked there for a number of years, some have worked well, others have not.
Yeah.
And, exactly, similar issues. Do I think that those same issues will necessarily happen here? I would hope not.
Right.
I would hope that the professionalism of the current owners of the Squire will ingrain in their employees that we are running a professional operation here and that we need to abide by certain rules. So, I think I think it actually will help you after running for a full summer, that if, somebody sees something that, maybe that should have happened this way, or a dumpster location isn't working where it is, okay, let's figure out where it works better. So, I am in full support of the requiring a review after it has been in operation for a complete summer.
If I could, the only complaints that Harwichport has had is the venues run by a pair of scofflaws that have outdoor music. And we're not going to have outdoor music. And we have, although it's only 2 years, Bobby, sorry, they've done a good job of running the place.
It's actually 4. But,
Bill, I didn't say they did.
sorry, just thought I'd
But
get this.
see, you've already brought up a question. Not to have a live music out there, but are you going to have music out there?
We're going to have dinner music, yes. That's the intent.
So
Yeah, you have
already,
music. Yeah.
maybe things will change and maybe you can get some instrumental music out there.
Well, only if the selectmen give us permission.
But that's, we're gonna wait and see what happens.
Thank you for answering my questions, Madam Chairman. And also, there have been queuing issues in Harwichport, which is my biggest concern with this particular.
Yeah.
So I've been,
Yeah,
my mind has been changed.
okay. So if there's, yes, Arthur, there's,
I just want to follow up with what Bob said about the drainage. If you go back to the way I approached this with the applicant, I was looking for some improvements and not to penalize them. If you recall, there's a relief mechanism. Right now, the downspout discharges onto the surface, all right? I'm asking for some form of capture, and they're providing that, and they have a relief, and it's gonna do exactly what it does today. One of the reasons why I thought this was an excellent location, because that's where the public is traveling across, okay? Downspouts coming there, let's capture it, let's take it out of the pathway of patrons who are walking there. And I don't know how this operation is gonna go during the winter months, okay? So, if there is gonna be anything out there, so that'll tell us whether something else needs to be done associated with it. So I doubt that there's anything that's gonna have to worry about or do associated with something like this, because if we did nothing with this and never conditioned it, it would be exactly what they have today. So this is an improvement. It's what I've always looked for on any site. I'm looking for some form of improvement, and you do a little bit here, a little bit there, and all of a sudden you start solving problems in the town.
So I totally agree with you. And I think that what you're saying, in my mind, is that shouldn't be a subject of review in a year, because we did it in a way that they complied with, and we're not saying, oh, we're gonna come back in a year and see if it works or not, because that was an agreement. So I was saying that shouldn't be, we needed to make sure that when we say we're doing a review, we're not coming back and putting that out there and saying, guess what? We're gonna make you do $100,000 worth of stuff, because what we agreed to didn't work. I think that's not fair, and that's what I was trying to make sure.
I'm not looking for additional things. I'm looking for things that there needs to be, as Mr. Dubus mentioned, things that perhaps need to have some adjustments because of the experience of it, of running an operation like this. Again, this is only this was the second one that we've done with permanent outdoor dining. We don't have a lot of experience with this, and I think that we're gonna have a better track record after a few more of these come forward. I think there's a third one that's coming forward from what I read in the Chronicle. So, more outdoor dining. We're gonna have to look at this closely and come up with our criteria, what we want to make sure all of this does, and be consistent. I'm always about making sure the consistency is there. I think Max was a good one for us to start with. This is a more challenging one, and I think the third one might be a third, just as challenging.
Arthur,
Yep.
yeah.
we've done the Red Nun, we have done the pizza place. I'm not sure if we were involved in the Wayside or not. I don't remember. I think we were.
Probably were, but it was so long ago. long
So, I
before
mean, we
was
have
on
come
the-
across this, but this is the first one in the backside of a building that's hidden,
Yeah,
okay? So it's a little unique in that area.
I agree.
So, but no, and as far as the drainage, I think they've done a great job on it.
Yeah.
That's a very difficult place to drain.
Yes, it is.
No matter, you could spend lots and lots and lots of money and still not drain it. Okay, it's a very, very unusual spot that was not engineered properly to begin with, because when they put those buildings in there,
Right.
they could care less, and it probably was dirt all around it.
Yep.
So no, I can guarantee you, we wouldn't come back. You can have that in writing for the drainage. I think you've done a great job in doing what you have done.
I think Brian wanted to make a comment.
Just a clarifying question about whether or not the one-year look-back should be restricted just to the configuration of the outdoor dining, because I think I am empathetic to any applicant's lack of certainty when the look back can be applied to all of our discretionary site plan review criteria. I think that's a very challenging place for an applicant to be in, so I rather than a full suite look back of the entire site, maybe focusing this condition on what you're most concerned about, which is the outdoor dining configuration.
Well, I would say it was more the pedestrian and traffic flow as well.
Yeah.
That those are part of, the outdoor dining is probably the select board has all the concerns about. I'm much more concerned about where people walk and when they come to it, how they walk around it, we really haven't looked totally at the intersection of the service vehicles coming and going and the people being there. Though we probably are okay, but I just would love to make sure that we don't have a situation in a year where we really would like it if you did this, and you come back and say, well, you can't because you approved a site plan that didn't have that. So that's my concern. It's mostly service and safety. And I would like to have that review in a year.
Okay. Yes, Warren?
First off, I do believe that the review is appropriate and useful, but I certainly would agree that the drainage has been explored, and improvements have been offered, improvements have been accepted, and it doesn't seem to me that that's an appropriate item to have a look back on. It's not going to look any different then than it does now. If we say it's fine now, then it ought to stand. I'm not really in favor of restricting in any broad sense what other items might be within our purview, because what we're really talking about is we don't know how this is going to work. It could be lighting, it could be abutter complaints, it could be noise, it could be service vehicles access, it could be queuing issues. Safety issue, I don't know. But I would agree with the comments that have been made, but I'm in favor of the review because of them. But I'd also make the observation that I believe that this works both ways to some extent. I take at face value that, the management of the applicant has the vested interest in making sure this thing works. And if something comes up that we might object to, they're going to be the first people to know it. And I assume that they're taking at face value, they're going to fix it. Whatever it is, whether it's queuing or where the dumpsters are or the parking or the service, I don't know what it is. But I assume they're going to fix it. So that a review in a year from now would, as much as anything, allow the applicant to document what it is they've done already to fix things, and that the action of this board then would be to memorialize in the approval given today, now, the actions that they have taken in the year interim before there's a review. And then at least the file is going to memorialize what was originally done and what they have done to fix issues that didn't seem to work, whether it's queuing or other things. So I think it's in many ways an advantage to the applicant that,
Exactly, yeah.
that those subsequent actions be memorialized and therefore certified, if you would, by the board.
I wouldn't even.
That's all.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly correct. That it's a mutual meeting. As I mentioned, that really the intention is to help you, that if something's not working, and actually memorialize may not be the right word, because if you do need to change something in the approved site plan, this board has to approve it. We have to approve that change. So otherwise, it's a deviation from the approved site plan. So you would need to come back before, like, say, for example, you saw that the queuing got overcrowded, and you thought, well, if we move the dumpster over here and change this around a little bit, it's going to help that issue. You need to come back before the board, and we need to approve those amendments. So I do believe what Warren said is correct, that the purpose of this one-year review is a meeting of the minds to benefit the applicant. It's not punitive in any way.
Madam Chair, if I can
Yes.
address some of the points, please.
Yes.
In that cooperative spirit, I mean, our applicant has 4 years of tried operation with an outdoor dining facility. So with respect to deliveries, they've worked around all of those issues. There have been no issues. They are really hard, fast, and running a good operation, as you've all seen. One other point with respect to safety. You have a building commissioner who is your safety regulatory officer. If there are safety issues that you're afraid of not getting notified, that individual, that department is going to probably know about it long before you folks. And they have authority to do their due diligence as well. So, and the last concern that I have is, this is a dynamic board. There may be issues that come up that you folks change regulations in that year's time. Obviously, this would want to revert only to current standards that you go by now, and not make a punitive effort towards our client for anything that may come down the road.
Megan?
Well, with regard to parking, we're certainly not holding you to the standards that you'd have to be held to
Agreed.
today. So I think you can pretty much guarantee that we're going to hold you. If you want to go down that road, I would leave that door shut.
And I think Bob had a
yeah, a
comment,
couple.
and also Bob.
Yes, it's operated well, but you are in fact changing the access that was mostly just delivery to being also having people flowing in and out of that area, and that I'm sure you're gonna work it out, but I'd like to be reassured in a year's time that the way we have it now is in the safety of all the people there. The building commissioner is responsible for the building, and really, my concerns are traffic flows and other things that really are not the building commissioner's main responsibility. That's our responsibility. So, in all respects, I think what we're asking for here is in everyone's best interest. So.
Fair, but safety is a broad topic. We just want to.
Yeah, you understand.
I understand, but every single one of the issues you've mentioned, if there is a problem, with traffic, with safety, the police would be involved, the Board of Selectmen would be involved. I mean, the likelihood that after a year of operation, there's still some problem that needs to be addressed is incredibly remote.
I would disagree.
Madam Chairman,
We've seen it before, and these issues yes, if there was a problem, the police would be involved, but there are safety issues that refer to the site plan design, and that's specifically our purview. And if something came up, the building commissioner actually couldn't have you change the site plan without it coming back before the board to amend the site plan. So there are issues that are specifically under our purview that it's just, prudent practice for us to take that review as well. So, Mr. Dubus.
can we move the question a little longer, please? I don't want to spend a whole hour
Yeah,
talking about the Squire over one thing, and it's about a letter. So if you don't want the letter, then tell us, and we won't vote for it. How's that? We won't vote for your site plan. You come back with another thing, okay? Why are you so adamant about this letter? You're afraid of it?
the one-year review, not a letter.
The
Yeah.
reason the applicant is concerned is he's going to make a substantial investment.
We already talked about this, Bill.
Thanks, Bob. So he's concerned that, there would be some, no disrespect intended, some arbitrary concerns on the board that would reduce in a significant way, reduce the value of his investment. That's the concern. He's not worried about the Board of Selectmen because he's used to dealing with them. So I'm just telling you, you say why? That's why.
Okay, well, we're here to tell you right now, and it's on record, you can pull the tape, you can have a copy of it, or whatever. All we want to do is have you come back and say, hey, everything's working good, or, hey, we'd like to move this over here, what do you think? That's basically it, okay? That nobody's screaming and yelling at you, nobody's doing anything else against you. I mean, obviously, you've been at it, and you're still at it. You're just refining your position on it, because you want to have a little fireplace out there, you want to serve dinner out there, you want to have the people come over here, you got your 12 spaces, you got everything in a row, and it should go smoothly. So don't be afraid. Just come in and tell us, hey, everything's good, fine, see you later. Or, hey, we have this issue we'd like to have. I mean, you're going to hold me up for the whole evening on a damn letter that is kind of stupid, Bill. It really is stupid about this, okay? I think we should, let's vote on it, vote the letter in, and if they don't like it, I'm sorry, that's too bad.
I think Charlene wanted to make a comment, and we will move ahead, Bob. Yes, Charlene, please go ahead.
I don't disagree with anything Bobby said. I would have said it a little bit different, however. If I can't, what I would like to have us do is actually go through
Yes.
quickly.
Yes,
There are 6 conditions here. I think we're missing the one on the re-review, you know, a review following the 1 year with the, if we could do that. For example, item number 1 on the general specific conditions, you know, we want to include in that an itemized list of the final approved plans
yes.
will be included in that.
I have the list.
Yep.
Yeah,
Item number 2 in the, wow, let's see.
item number 2, I think Arthur wanted to specify that there's no more than 36
36.
outdoor seats.
Where it says the outdoor seating.
Yeah.
In parens.
Yeah.
36 total.
Yeah,
In paren.
Yep.
I
yes.
think would cover that. With regard to item number 3, the outdoor seating will be utilized, weather permitting, per the approved hours as established by the licensing authority.
Yes, exactly.
Because this is a temporary outdoor seating plan, or outdoor seating policy. This could go away. So I think it needs to abide by what the license, might be my earrings, by the licensing board. You know, if they
Yes.
use the same hours,
Let me just ask the board, though. I mean, right now, what is approved is a little bit earlier closing than what we had suggested. What if that changes? Is this board all right with that? If the licensing authority allowed them to stay open till 1 AM? Are we all, I don't think this board,
That's not your purview. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
that's the licensing authority's purview about
okay,
hours of operation.
okay,
It-
all right.
and
Well, would that be hours of operation for the business establishment inside, not necessarily on the site?
Outside.
The site
Oh,
is-
it's
that-
an
that's a-
alcoholic license.
Yeah.
It's a service of beverages.
So if it was allowed to serve alcoholic beverages outside till 1 AM, this board has nothing to say about that. Is that what you're saying?
That's my recommendation. I mean, this use can't commence until they receive a license from the select board for this use. So your approval tonight, if you do approve, is not the final
Okay.
step in this permitting process.
Okay, so we just need to adopt wording in there that the hours of operation conform to the license issuing authority.
But is the license separate for the outdoor than the indoor? Okay.
No,
No.
but the select board can impose conditions.
And this board can also recommend to the licensing board
Yes.
what it feels is appropriate for outdoor hours of operation.
Right, right.
And I think in other communities I've worked in, that was actually common practice. The licensing board would reach out to the various town
Right.
departments and boards to find out, you know, do you have any issues with this? You know, is there something we're missing, something you suggest, you know, to get that input? I don't know if they do that here.
Yes.
But, okay,
Of
then
course they
I
would.
think that is the opportunity that this board will have, you
Yes.
know.
So the current hours of operation that Ryan's provided for us for the outdoor is Sunday through Thursday. Outdoor dining areas are required to close by 10 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and federal holidays, outdoor dining areas are required to close by 11 p.m. So it's slightly less. We were willing to go to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. So,
Can we put that as a recommendation
yeah,
instead of a
Yes.
fact?
yes, yes. So we're going to amend condition 3. We're going to amend the wording that the hours of operation are determined by the licensing authority, but we recommend the current hours, Sunday through Thursday. Outdoor dining areas are required to close by 10 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and federal holidays. Outdoor dining areas are required to close by 11 p.m., correct? Okay, great. Okay.
Item number 4 seems to be okay. Item number 5 seems to be okay. Item number 6 and item number 7 would be the
1-year review.
the 1-year review following a full summer operation.
A full year, including a full summer, yeah.
Yes, that
Yes.
works, that works.
Yes, of operation. And we would omit from our review the drainage issues, but other matters that fall under the purview of the site plan review of the planning board are subject to review after 1 year.
And I think a simple, with the exception of the approved drainage
Yeah.
improvements.
Sure, sounds
Keep it
good.
simple.
And there was one other small, let's see. So, Ryan, can you, when we discussed condition 2 this afternoon, did we decide that it was better to omit the phrase "without further approval and review" by the planning board, building department, and water and sewer commissioners? That the approved number of seats or occupancy shall not increase without further approval and review.
Correct. So that was included to just clarify that this is not an increase in the number of seats that they are approved for. It's, the 36 seats are taken from within the building and being located in the outdoor area. Any seat increase requires the review of those 3 bodies.
Right.
Right.
One reason I thought to omit that phrase is just because it does imply that perhaps this board and other boards would consider in the future increasing number of seats and occupancy, and I don't think that is a consideration. I don't think we would consider increasing.
Well,
So,
the fire department sets the capacity of the building, and we're maxed out, so.
okay,
And the building code also sets, you know, certain square
Maxed
footage
out.
for a person as well.
so we can omit that phrase, I think, because it's not possible to increase. Correct?
Within the purview of the building code,
Okay,
you know, I think that's appropriate language as well, you know, so.
Okay.
They're pretty strict on that.
okay.
I would like to make one additional exception, and that is that we can't come back and revisit the parking. I think we've agreed
Yes.
on 12 parking spaces. I don't want somebody to come back next year and start making that as leverage for other things. So
Thank you for that.
I
Okay.
think we should also have that exception.
Just to clarify, so on
Yes.
item number 2, are you suggesting that after the number of approved seats or occupancy for the restaurant use, period?
Period. That's what I'm suggesting, because we don't want to imply that in the future, it could be considered that the occupancy would be more or the seats would be more. We don't want
They'd have to come back to all those anyway.
they would, yeah,
I mean, that's just a given.
yeah, so that's what I was suggesting, as long as that's, receives the approval of the board, and Ryan, as long as you're all right with that change.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I do think we have our statement of conditions put in place, and we're adding condition number 7 for the one-year review, excluding the review of the drainage and excluding review of the parking waiver of one parking place. So I think, are we ready to make a motion to approve, to approve this site
I'll
plan
make it
as
easier than I
submitted
have in the
with
past.
conditions as stated and as amended by the board? Charlene?
Madam Chair, I would move that the planning board approve for the applicant JFF Design Architects for the property located at 487, 489 Main Street, Chatham, Mass. Approve the site plan review and incorporate the general and specific conditions as written and as amended this evening.
Yes, 7 conditions, yes.
7 conditions.
May I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that one.
All right, let's do a vote. Bob Wirtschafter,
Wirtschafter, approve.
Art Spru,
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain approve.
Megan Story,
Megan Story, approve.
Charlene Greenhalgh,
Charlene Greenhalgh, approve.
Bob Dubus.
Bob Dubus, approve.
This is Catherine Halpern, I approve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
everyone.
And good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So are there any comments from the public? I don't even see anybody connected remotely. Okay. So there's no public comments. I have no comments. Charlene, did you have?
I just have one comment, and it
Sure.
has nothing to do with this body,
Okay.
but just at the town meeting, and I don't blame you for booing, the unfortunate and horrible reaction that Megan Story received upon asking for a point of order was appalling. And I'm really just, it just was so inappropriate and not called for.
I appreciate your bringing that up, but I feel my hands are tied.
Okay. I'm not asking.
There might be another.
It's more of
Just
a
wants it on the
rhetor-
record.
It's more of a rhetorical comment.
Yeah.
That,
There
I'm
might
not.
be other avenues for you to express that.
Yes, but
That
I had the floor, so I
concern,
spoke it. It was
yeah.
just really, really inappropriate, and I hope something like that just does not happen again to anybody.
Okay, great. I appreciate your bringing it up. So I think that being said, what I'm going to ask for is Bob Dubus's motion to adjourn the meeting. What? Yeah. You don't
If
want?
you don't want to do it, I will. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
May I have a second? Mr. Dubus?
Bob Dubus will second that.
All right.
Wirtschafter, approve.
Art Spru,
Art Spru, approve.
Warren Chain,
Warren Chain approve.
Megan Story,
Megan Story, approve.
Charlene Greenhalgh,
Charlene Greenhalgh, approve.
Bob Dubus. Bob Dubus, did you like to vote, please?
Oh, yes.
Okay. This is Catherine Halpern. I approve that we adjourn the meeting. Let's note the time. It looks like 7:08, is that correct? 6:08, sorry. 6:08 PM. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and enjoy the rest of the evening.